These interview highlights come from 3 interviews done by Zach Dwyer of the Ball State Writing Program and include Dr. Lyn Jones, Dr. Kathryn Ludwig, and Dr. Laura Romano. All right, so I guess to start our conversation about immersive learning, how would you describe an immersive learning classroom to someone who may be unfamiliar with the term or completely new to the term immersive learning?
Well, I've written and published papers that have good definitions of that, but the idea of immersive learning is that we immerse our students in experiential experiences, and I call it border crossing. We take them out of the classroom, beyond the walls of an RB 290 classroom, beyond the walls of an RB Rupert Bell building, and out into the community. And really, for me, and people will define this differently, but for me, true immersive learning should be a reciprocal process. It's not a service learning. We're not giving something to Muncie. There is a reciprocation where we are working with them, and in return they offer us something back. And I think for me, the true spirit is that students really have an opportunity to see Muncie. They really, they know the campus well. And I think there's, in any university community, there's a divide. There is the campus, and there is the city or the town. And often people don't, unless they work at a university, don't go back and forth. And often there are negative feelings. These students that come and use up all of our resources and do this, and students also might have negative perceptions. So I think that also it can help to break that down so that the community sees the kinds of students we have and learn more about the community, and they get to come to campus. So my students aren't, in my immersive learning, they're not just going out, we bring individuals into campus as well.
That is fantastic. There is so much helpful information there. The idea of reciprocation, of border crossing, of community engagement and community building. These are all wonderful insights into what you're doing in these classes. So thank you for that. But could you just give us a brief overview, excuse me, of how your immersive learning section works, what assignments you have, sort of what your relationship with your partner is, and I guess an extension of that, how do you think you create a reciprocal relationship? Like, what do you do for them and what do they do for you?
Well, my community partner is the YWCA of Delaware County. And we've really established a partnership by frequently asking them what their needs are. And just by doing that, we establish a lot of opportunity for our students to learn. So this course is interesting because in first year composition, our key questions are, how do we write in rhetorical situations? How do we understand who we're composing for? The medium through which we are communicating to them, their motivations, the things they value. Well, in having a community partner, we automatically have those factors determined for us. So merely by telling us what they need, they are giving us the tools we need to analyze rhetorical situations.
That's so interesting. And I think that is something that is extremely invaluable to, instead of having to say, imagine who your audience is to a room full of first-year writers, especially, to be able to say, your audience is the YWCA of Muncie. Right. What do they need?
That's right.
So
I think the greatest benefit of teaching composition in this way is that the key questions of the course are taken out of the realm of the hypothetical. They're
right.
placed into concrete situations. So, in first year composition, we emphasize the importance of understanding the rhetorical situation in which you're composing. Students usually have to imagine the target audience, what they believe, how they might respond to certain rhetorical choices, when and where they might be interacting with the text. But in this class, all of those factors are clearly defined, and sort of the success or failure of student work is not only measurable, but also impactful. Like, it actually stands to impact people in this organization who are being served by this organization. So, when the semester is over, our major claim in Writing for Change, which is that writing can facilitate change, that should be more than an idea. It should be something that's visible for our students.
I love that. That is wonderful. I suppose then, like, what types of assignments do you give your students? What types of, I guess, work or meetings do you have with your partner as ways to facilitate their understanding of the community partner, as well as to help your community partner tell your students what they need, how they should be writing?
Yeah, so our course spans 2 semesters, which is a wonderful luxury for us as instructors. It's beneficial for the students as well because they will fulfill both of their composition requirements for first-year composition. So this means that we've had this opportunity in the fall semester to dedicate our attention to learning about ethical community engagement, learning about sound composition practices, learning about and researching issues that impact our community partner. And so our interactions with the YWCA during that time were mainly with the our contact person in the organization rather than people who are receiving benefits from YWCA. During the second semester, we're having a very different experience. Students are being asked to apply their research, doing interviews with local experts. We've done a survey for residents of the YWCA to get their expert perspective and to determine what types of texts will most benefit the YWCA right now. And it's very much a living thing. It kind of pushes us all outside of our comfort zone, which, especially for first-year students, understandably, is prescribed projects with clearly defined parameters, but it has the benefit of pushing us to ask why this text, why this audience, why this medium of delivery, and how do we deal with these obstacles?
I think sometimes, when we are 18 to 21 years old,
Right.
we sometimes forget about people who are not in our immediate groups and communities. We sometimes don't consider those who are, different from us in other ways. And what I really want my students to see in working with Beyond I Can is that when someone volunteers to give time to speak with you or to let you interview them, that's a precious gift of them allowing you to hold their story and allowing you to share their time. And I want our students to approach that humbly and respectfully, knowing that these people from Beyond I Can, just like any other person that you would encounter, is worthy of our thankfulness in sharing that time, and also that they have something to teach us, just like every other person does. So I hope that expands my students' minds a little bit in that way. I've noticed already that they dig a little bit deeper when they create questions to ask, or they ask some really thought-provoking things. And I'm just proud of that. I'm proud of my students and how they seem to be digging in and enjoying the project.
That's great. And I think that almost gets at one of the other questions I had for you today, is what are some of the benefits, do you think, of teaching this way, either for you as an instructor or for your students or even for your community partners? Sort of where do the benefits happen?
Mm-hmm. There are a lot of benefits. I've always been a strong believer in the value in immersive learning. And some of that is because students are able to see the work that they do as relevant outside of the classroom. A lot of times students come to college and they think, I'm writing this academic paper, but for what? What will come of it? It's wasted work. The students in this immersive learning program are seeing their work and their efforts be utilized for the good of someone else, for the good of an organization that is in their community. And that's really fulfilling, to think that they're contributing to something bigger than themselves and even bigger than our university. So that's one of the benefits. I think that the fact that these immersive learning classes are stretch classes, so I have the same students for 103 and 104, really has helped me to get to know students better. I feel so thankful that they're sharing their lives with me for this whole year. And because we've spent time together already, the whole first semester in fall, we have relationships. And the students have relationships with one another that are different than would typically be, where I get a new batch of students for 104. That is really special to see. The students also, I hope, will be inspired or become passionate about something new. So whether they continue to pursue work in disability studies or some other kind of social activism work, I'm hoping that they can see the value of that, or maybe even be inspired to do some of this in their own chosen future career.
That's great. I think that the idea of context and of real world application is something that I'm hearing you talk about quite a bit, where this experience has provided your students with practical, in the moment solutions that they can put out into the community, right? Which is fantastic. And that's something I think that in normal comp classes, or traditional comp classes, I should say, we're always trying to impart that notion, right? Like, this matters. No, we promise. But you don't really have to have that debate with your students.
No, they can see it. That's the beauty of it. Yeah. And I just feel so thankful that they are given the opportunity to learn that at such a young age, because then that translates into the whole rest of their college experience, right? That humanitarian side of life, that whole part of being the idea of civic responsibility when you live in a community is important to understand and learn. But a lot of people don't learn that until they're older. And some are never given the opportunity to learn that in the way we do here. And that is valuable because, you know, in college, we educate students to impart to them the skills they need to have a career. But equally important is our responsibility to help infuse them with qualities that will help make them good citizens and good human beings in this global human community. And this really helps with that.
And my kids are doing the fundraiser. They're doing the Walk a Mile in My Shoes. That is next week on February 10th.
Okay.
So we've already raised $226. We're on our way. Our goal is my goal personally is more than 250, but we set 250. But the kids have been raising money, and 3 of the students, Lainey, Landon, and McKenna, are going to do the walk with President Mearns.
Interesting.
On the 10th. So the walk is actually not happening. People are supposed to do a virtual walk, but there's a very small faction from the mission with the president, and they're going to do through campus. And my other students are going to be at the scramble light where the walk starts with signs and issues that they've come up with to showcase their support. So the kids are they're really excited about that. And we do think we're going to be able to get them into the mission. They think the mission is going to be able to get vaccinated. So the kids could go in, and that's important. They're just itching to get in there. And in fact, one of the kiddos is applied for a job. So
at the mission. That's wonderful. I think that's sort of a level of dedication that I think a lot of people who have taught a composition course would identify isn't always there in student populations in these types of classes. So that's a really interesting perspective to think that, especially with these students being in this course for 2 semesters with the same group of people, with the same instructor, that is a level of dedication, a level of excitement about the material that they're learning and the work that they're doing that is potentially unusual in this field. So I think that's valuable information and valuable work that you're doing.
And not all of the students, I'll be frank. I would say that half the students who signed up for this class were genuinely interested in this topic and in this kind of project. The other half needed a 103 and a 104 class. However, and I did, there were a couple of students, there are two students who were in the course last semester who did not want to proceed. And I understood that because it requires more work, truthfully. It's good work, but it's different,
Absolutely.
more time. But the students who didn't really know quite what they were getting into are like, this is really cool. Like, so they were pleasantly, surprised. But my attendance is better, my engagement is better, my grades in this section compared to other sections, were better compared to other freshmen that I've had. So I think it makes a difference. I think all composition classes should be like this.
I'm really hopeful that this will become a permanent offering in the department, and that was the vision we went into the pilot with, because I think the more it becomes something that's workshopped and crafted well, it just has an opportunity to connect students who want to see college as something other than the ivory tower, right? I mean, the immersive classes, they help with retention, especially of, first generation students and the kind of students that we have at Ball State. So I'm hopeful that we will turn this into a regular offering with our department, and people will sign up for it intentionally,
Right.
because they've heard about what a great thing it is.
And I think that's important. From what you've talked about today, just the benefits that students can and clearly have gotten from your class, from the other two classes that have been offered so far, being able to say that that's something we value is really important, I think, especially in the year 2021.
Yes, this has been the year for it. I mean, I think we all want to say that we're responding to the world around us somehow, and I think it's helped us in our class to feel a little less anxious because we're not quite as helpless as we would be without it.
Thank you to Dr. Jones, Dr. Romano, and Dr. Ludwig for participating in these interviews. If you'd like to watch the interviews in their entirety, they can be found on the Ball State Writing Program YouTube page.